Sashi Puki Jushin Metokam Viramishin Degambadi Sange Shindu Miteo Wargi Drokunanda Shinraju Parsho Iram Guru Ratnamandala Kaniriyatayami Sange Chunam Soki Choknamba Chanshu Badu Dagni Kyapsuchi Dagi Jinye Gipe Sunamki Droa Penchir Sange Druparsho Sange Chunam Soki Choknamba Chanshu Badu Dagni Kyapsuchi Dagi Jinye Gipe Sunamki Dora Penchir Sange Jupasho Sange Churan Soki Choknamba Chanshu Badu Dagni Kyapsuchi Dagi Jinye Gipe Sunamki Dora Penchir Sange Jupasho.
So please sit comfortably with your spine straight and your eyes, meditation posture, breathing through the nostrils comfortably. Watch your breath for 7 rounds, beginning with an exhalation. Bring to mind the manifestation of holiness that you identify with the most, whatever form that takes, whatever imagery appeals to you. Invite that manifest form to join you. Feel them with you here, or see them in your mind's eye. Offer them something in gratitude, something you value, find to be beautiful. And acknowledge and honor them by bowing down to them in some way, seeing yourself prostrate in your mind, expressing your humility and appreciation, respect, whatever way you wish. Ask them to bless you, to help you with any problems or difficulties arising. Think of the greatest suffering and negativity that you've experienced in the last day. Feel it in your heart very clearly. Try to sit with the feeling of it. Ask them to bless you and help you to clean it, to remove the suffering, to experience joy and love, happiness, bliss. Resolve that you will offer that to other people. You will bring happiness to others by offering love and joy and happiness to them. Pick someone specific that you can do this with, tangibly, concretely, and make a plan in your mind. See and feel yourself sending love to them from your heart. Joy, support, happiness. See their sorrows dissolve, any sufferings they have dissolve. See them receiving your blessing and goodness, love. And ask this holy being to do the same for you. Feel their love, blessings, joy, and happiness being shared with you, offered to you. Feel them blessing your mind stream, your being. See them come to reside above your crown, facing forward as a small glowing orb of light, blessing you there. So homage to all the holy beings. Thank you for coming. And does everyone have a quiz? Who wants a quiz? Does anyone not have a quiz? Who wants a quiz?
Do you need this? You want a quiz? I have been up one too. He's trying to get quick for a quiz. Okay, I don't have the right quiz.
I know, we're waiting for Haley, but she's almost. No pressure. Everybody done? How many people plan to take the exam in 2 weeks?
Has it been 2 weeks? I don't know if I can do
2 weeks, right?
I mean, like if you take the exam, not in that 2 weeks.
Not taking.
Not take it in that time.
Can you take it another time?
Yes. Because you specified in 2 weeks.
Well, that's next week. This is the last class,
Right.
and then next week we have the review, and then typically we have the final the week after that. So, Maria, Grace, Patrona, do you have any preference for your grading purposes as to how people do the exam?
Well, no. It's their team. I mean, you know, we could do it all together.
Said
which
that so
is-
sweetly.
I was just thinking, what a lovely voice.
It was beautiful.
It
I
was.
saw the sound.
No.
It's like Julie Andrews.
She's Julie Andrews of the
You know, as long as it's not sent to me in August. You know, as long as it's maybe within May. Yeah.
Oh, so we don't come to class and write
Well,
it?
we might do that.
Well, that's what we're talking about right now.
I can't be here that day.
Okay, how many people want to come or can come to class for the final exam?
So it would be May.
May, I don't know what, 2nd, 1st, 8th?
It's 8th, yeah.
Okay. May 8th, there you go. Well, why don't we leave it that, go ahead, yeah, I'll let you,
Does that mean we'll be here for the exam?
let's do it this way. You may come here if you wish, or you may speak to Maria directly and arrange to send it to her for grading and processing. And just let her know which one you'll be doing, okay? Is that okay? Thank you.
Thank you.
So tonight, our topic is to the 6 perfections. We're jumping into the 6 perfections, and we're going to cover the first 2 of them. The perfection of Jinpei Parchin. Please say Jinpei Parchin.
Jinpei Parchin.
Jinpei is giving, and Parchin is the perfection. And so there are different kinds of giving. Please say Sansingi,
Sansingi.
Jimpa,
Jimpa.
Sansingi Jimpa.
Sansingi Jimpa.
So Jimpa is giving again, and Gi just means of, and Sansi means material things, stuff, objects, material, food, clothes, house, any object. There was a student who raised the point with the famous Geshe, why give people stuff to help them? It's just more suffering, right? I mean, if I give someone food, it helps them for a short time and they're hungry, it's just all the things of samsara. We're just helping to perpetuate samsara and helping to give things to people which don't really benefit them ultimately in a meaningful way, right? So he made this case and he made the argument that it's all suffering anyway. What's the point? Why bother? I suppose you see that sometimes with people where they say, what's the point? Why bother? None of it matters anyway. Right? So Geshe didn't like that. He sort of found it to be not very bodhisattva-like. And he had sort of an interesting point that he made to him. He said, you're a bodhisattva, right? They don't know enough to want spiritual things. They don't know enough to want things to bring them ultimate happiness and ultimate relief and ultimate satisfaction and comfort. So, as bodhisattvas, we have to give them whatever it is they want. Obviously, it's not harmful. And it's our job to give people whatever they want. Because most of the time, people don't have the sense to want higher things and spiritual things and the causes of ultimate happiness. You know, they want more money or more food or more clothes or better vacation or, you know, somebody to talk to or whatever the case might be, right? We have to give them those things as bodhisattva. And so Geshe asked him, he said, look, do you own the shirt you're wearing? Do you own the shirt on your back? Could you even, you know, could you give that shirt to someone? And he said, no. So the student was like, well, of course, it's my shirt. I can give it to someone. I own it, right? And Geshe said, well, what do you mean you own it? He said, well, it's my shirt. Geshe was like, well, can I give that shirt to somebody? He said, no, it's my shirt. Well, then I can give it to somebody, right? I own it. It's mine. It belongs to me. I can give it to somebody or not give it to somebody as I choose, right? He said, well, what do you mean you own it? I don't explain how you mean you own it. You're saying that are you saying that tomorrow you're sure that you can give that shirt to somebody? Positive that you can give that shirt to somebody tomorrow? And then he's kind of realized the point, you know, realized what he was saying. He's like, well, I guess I can't actually be sure that I can give the shirt to someone tomorrow that you wouldn't be able to give it to someone tomorrow, right? And so there's a saying in Tibetan that people lose shirts all the time. You know, shirts go looking for new owners all the time. You know, people lose it, gets stolen, die, you know, finds a new owner, right? And so, you know, this is the point that the Geshe was making, was that, you know, we don't really own anything in a definitive sense, you know, in a lasting sense. We have temporary possession and temporary use and temporary control of things, right? But that's about it, really. We can't say that we'll have the same things tomorrow that we have today. We can't even say we'll have the same face tomorrow that we have today. So give them away now, is the point that he made. You know, you have temporary domain and temporary control over the things in your life. And for a brief time you have them, and for a brief time you have control over them. And use that opportunity to give them away to people, to collect the right karma. You know? If we have the ability to give anything to anyone right now, we should do it, because tomorrow we may not have that ability. We may lose that ability. So, Master Shantideva sets forth ground rules about giving things away, about how to give away everything you have. You know? I mean, from a negative point of view, we don't own anything anyway. So we may as well give it away while we still have the opportunity and get some true benefit out of it. You know, collect the karma of giving while we have temporary control and ability to engage in giving. Right? Do something meaningful and serve someone with the things we have by giving them away. And it's the only meaningful thing we can do with our things. Because we're going to lose them anyway, and we may as well get some mileage out of them in the meantime. So there are many situations where lamas, you know, like you see it with lamas all the time. You know, somebody gives Geshe, Holy Geshe Michael, you know, beautiful burgundy fleece, you know, and a day later you see some student wearing it, right? And the person that gave it is pissed off. You know, like, I gave it to you. You know, why do you give it to them? You know, you know, someone gives another, you know, lama sopa, like, you know, he gives precious gifts all the time. You know, it's a beautiful, you know, special, expensive, you know, gold mandala plate or something. You know, and it takes a couple hours before it's in someone else's hands, right? You know, that's how it works, right? They don't keep anything. They're just constantly giving everything away. That's what higher holy lamas do, right? And it doesn't take very long. So, you know, if we're really interested in collecting good karma, we should probably be doing something like that too. So in a negative way, they're saying, look, you don't own anything anyway. You may as well give it away and collect the virtue while you can. And if you give it away, then you get everything you dream of, right? Because to be in a Buddha paradise, surrounded by nice things being given to us all the time, what do you have to do? Give it all away. Be giving nice things to other people all the time, right? Constantly. If we're going to be showered with amazing, spectacular, ecstatic things constantly, the cause would be, you know, offering things to people, to other people all the time. Just makes sense, karmically, right? So the more we hold back, the less we'll enjoy things, and the less we'll have karmically, right? Just stands to reason. So does that mean that we should go home tonight and empty our bank account and, you know, be destitute tomorrow, right? So what would happen, right? What are the consequences of doing that? What would that mean for our lives? What would that mean for us spiritually, karmically, right? So we have to talk about that. So Sansingi Jigpa is giving material things away. And then next we have Minjigpa. Please say Minjigpa.
Minjigpa.
Jigpa.
Jigpa.
Minjigpa. You say, I can't even say it. You try it.
Minjigpa.
Thank you. Blah. Say that 3 times fast. So, Jigpa is fear, and Min is not fear. So, protecting people, saving them from things they're afraid of. And typically this means helping people who get mugged or this threat of physical violence or something like that, you know. And it could go anywhere from standing in an elevator with somebody who's, you know, looking inappropriately at the woman standing next to you and blocking their interaction to make them more comfortable, you know, to being on a subway and having someone speaking unpleasantly to someone, you know, sort of using skillful means to interrupt it or disrupt it, or having a big rain and having worms flooding the sidewalk and, you know, trying to help the worms on the sidewalk. Yeah, right? See? Right? You do that, right? A lot. That's great. That's this perfection. Well done.
Oh.
You're giving protection from fear. Right? It's one of the perfections. Right? So well done. So it also extends to mental fears. You know, it's not just physical fears. It's not just bugs at risk of being smashed or a moth about to burn up in a candle flame or something like that. But people who have anxiety, grief, depression, things preying upon their mind, it's helping them in whatever way we can, rather than saying, you know, what's wrong with you, stupido? Why can't you function? You know, why can't you deal with things? You know, why can't you get your act together? Or, I confess, I do it sometimes. It's not the perfection of giving freedom from fear, it's the opposite. So I'm doing my best to not do it anymore. Protecting people from fear can also require force, right? I mean, people aren't just all sweet and lovely and nice, saying, you know, if you say to someone, hey, stop doing that, are they going to go like, oh, I'm sorry, let me stop, right? Probably not, all right? So then, you know, we have to be the type of bodhisattva warrior that's willing to, you know, perhaps bang someone upside the head or take forceful means in some way to protect someone from fear also. But it has to happen in the appropriate way, right? It has to be done in the appropriate way. You know, it has to be, I know this person is going to collect negative karma, and I don't want them to, and I'm going to stop this person from collecting negative karma. And that's why I'm going to bang them upside the head. Not because they dissed me and didn't listen to me, and I'm going to kick their ass as a result, you know? Which is typically what happens, you know? Right? It's like, I told you to stop it. I told you to butt out. Oh, yeah, you know? Right? It's not what we're talking about. It's not bodhisattva activity. So it's the kind of motivation that says, you know, I'm trying to help people through some kind of compassion and love, you know, rather than righteousness or, you know, being stronger or better or more powerful. And the Lamrim always says, you know, if somebody broke in your door and ran at you with a knife and you had a gun, you know, what would you do? Where would you shoot him?
Everywhere.
Everywhere. I'd perforate them good. That's not what the Lamrim says. No.
That's what my uncle says.
That's what Uncle Fred says. That's what they.
Yeah.
That's what we do in Long Island. I know.
He wanted to give me a sawed-off shotgun. He said, if you have to come down the stairs, just pump it. So they hear the noise, and they'll just run out.
Yeah.
You don't have to shoot.
I know. Someone else had a similar perspective. They said, get a 45. You know, the sound, it's so loud that it would scare people within 3 blocks, you know? Anyway, you just have once a month, you know, you have target practice. Nobody bothers you. So But that's not really what the lumber says, but I hear you, that's Long Island way. Oh man, I don't know where you live. Anyway. So Lumberham says, look, you know, now think about if you were next to your mother baking and, you know, she was chopping the apples for the apple pie and all of a sudden she lost her mind and whirled around and started stabbing at you with a knife, you know, and you had a gun. What would you do? Perforate her.
Maybe give mom just the butt.
You'd use the butt on mom, okay?
Give her the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah. You're killing me, Bruce.
It's not a question though.
That's not what the lumberman says doesn't say just beat her up a little bit. No, it says, of course, you know, if you care for your mother at all, you wouldn't try to hurt her. You try to restrain her and have some compassion and try to, you know, even if you had to, you know, get a little bloodied yourself, you know, you wouldn't knock her out with the butt of the shotgun, perhaps. Perhaps. So it's like that, you know. As a bodhisattva, it's our duty to try to help people who are victims of violence in the right way, with the right attitude, in a powerful way, right? But try to do it without hurting anyone. You know, we have to intercede. We have to stop evil. We have to prevent negativity from being perpetuated in the world, but not in a way where we become negative and perpetuate negativity and become part of the problem, right? So that's really the point, okay? In stopping negativity, we don't want to become part of the problem. That's the way to say it. Okay, next, third type of giving, please say chuki, jimpa, giving the dharma. This is the highest form of giving. Okay, having a class like this is giving dharma. It's really a vehicle to try to help someone gain a realization, you know, which is the real point. The books, the teachings, you know, they're vehicles to understand emptiness, death, impermanence, to gain realizations of these things. And so we're really trying to provide that to people. You know, when giving dharma, we're trying to give realizations. And so all of the classes and homeworks and all the rest are a vehicle to try to bring realizations and offer realizations to people. Try to transfer some kind of understanding into people's hearts and minds, right? And that's the greatest gift you can give a person, is to teach them ultimate things and ultimate methods, and to gain some kind of ultimate understanding, a visceral understanding of how to truly create wealth, or how to truly end suffering or affliction. So, you know, wealth comes from good deeds. You know, all the money in the world comes from giving. And our society and the paradigms of our economics classes at university, you know, talking about elasticity curves and supply and demand and all the rest, you know, they don't, karma says it's not true. It says, no, there's not a finite supply of things. There isn't a scarcity of resources. You know, it's karmic, you know. If there was enough goodness, and if we collected the goodness, then things which are theoretically possible now, like producing endless power from water, you know, would happen. You know, someone would make a discovery, and fission, fusion, whichever one, would become possible. Fission. Fusion. Fusion will become possible, you know. It's not outside the realm of possibility. So, yeah, so I could go into peak oil, but I'm not going to get controversial on it. I'll just stay away from that, you know. Maybe I will, what the hell. Okay. Peak oil theory, you know, for decades and decades, is people have been saying we're going to run out of oil, you know, and then year after year and decade after decade, there are more and more and more oil reserves. You know, it's 20 or 30 years later, you know, people are saying we're running out of oil, crude oil, you know, but 30 years later, there are more oil reserves than there were, and, you know, gas reserves than there were 30, 50 years ago. So it's, you know, it's, why is that? Is this better technology? No, well, it's karmic, isn't it? You know? So, ultimately. So it's not that the problem is that we are not, it's not that we need to redistribute wealth better or more effectively. It's not that we need to take more money from the rich and give more money to the poor. You know, the rich are rich for a reason. They engaged in giving in the past. The poor are poor for a reason. You know, they didn't give in the past. And so redistribution of wealth is not the answer. You know, it's a false problem. You know, teaching people to give is the way for everyone to have money in the world. So, teaching Dharma, teaching about karma, teaching ultimate things is the best form of giving. All right, ultimate kind of giving. What makes one type of giving more powerful than another? There are certain things that make certain kinds of giving more powerful than others. Please say gyun, du, Jawa. Gyun means in a stream. Gyun means stream. Jawa means to do it in a stream. Giving in a stream. So there are various things that make karmic results more powerful. Okay, so doing something over and over again makes it more powerful. Okay. Like doing it on a continual basis, right? Continually giving, even a small thing, you know. Good to just give some small thing regularly, on an ongoing basis. I mean, you don't have to have a lot. Just the continual, ongoing habit is to give, and that makes the karma more powerful. Okay, and please say dumpa. Drakpo. Dumpa means intention or motivation, and drakpo means very fierce, a very fierce intention or motivation. So very strong feelings, powerful feelings when you're engaging in that undertaking. You know, do we drop a coin in a beggar's cup thoughtlessly with no feeling? Or do we feel some kind of deep sense of grief and compassion and love for them as we give them a quarter with a deep feeling that we hope they have enough to eat and that they have a good place to sleep and have a good day? So very different karma doing it one way versus the other way, right? So ideally when we're giving, like a quarter to a beggar, the idea is thinking, this person's going to become my disciple eventually. I'm hooking him into studying the Dharma with me eventually in the future. He thinks he's just getting a quarter, but I'm actually making a connection here where he's going to learn all the steps of the path to enlightenment. He has no idea, right? So that's that kind of motivation, some kind of powerful motivation that one has. I'm giving him a quarter so that he can reach the end of suffering forever, and he can study with me and become my disciple and learn about ultimate things. Right? The Buddha's first disciples, when he taught in the first turning of the wheel of the Dharma, were from the story of the tiger cub. I don't know if you know it. There was a tigress who was starving, who was too weak to eat, and she had 4 cubs. And Buddha, in one of his former lives, thought, well, let me offer my body to them so that they can have food, and I'll make a connection with them and teach them in the future. And so he did. And he offered his body, and the tigress, she was too weak to eat, so he ripped his skin open and put it there so she could easily get it. And then she slowly ate it, and he made prayers and aspirations that they would be his disciples as he offers himself to the tigress and her cubs. And so when he became enlightened in his life as Shakyamuni Buddha, those were his first disciples when he first taught the first turning of the wheel of the Dharma, because he made that connection in that way. So you don't have to rip your skin open and give it to somebody. You put a quarter in the cup. It's not really the point. The point is the fierce feelings of intention and aspiration when giving and collecting any karma, which make it more powerful. Right? So you may not have much to offer to your lama or the 3 jewels, but if you do it with fierce feelings, and if you do it over and over again, it becomes very, very powerful. It brings very, very powerful results. Right? Okay. Please say Mitun Chok. Mitun Chok. Means the other side or the opposite side. And in this case, when you perform an act of giving, you're doing it as an antidote to something else. It's an opposition to something else. It's in opposition to something else. So, for example, if we have a mental affliction in our mind, like stinginess, and we give as an antidote to that stinginess, it's much more powerful. Like if we have a favorite thing, like, I really want this egg, I really want to eat this egg, and I don't want anyone else to have it, and I, really like chocolate. I recognize that stinginess, I don't want the other person to have it, and you say, here, you take it, you have it, right? Then that's a much more powerful karma that one's collected by engaging in giving as an antidote to one's own miserliness, right? So, Master Shantideva gives the example of not being attached to the things you own. If there's something we have that we're very attached to, then, and we see ourselves getting more and more attached to it, then as an antidote we can offer it to someone. So, like that. So chok means you overcome. You overcome. If you're jealous of someone, then you give a compliment. Just eat the damn. Just eat the damn. So, yeah, right. Yeah, or give it back to me. Yeah. So if you don't like someone, if you're jealous of someone, then speak well of them, speak kindly of them, praise them to others. So whatever the affliction is that we may have, to counteract it with the opposite activity, right? So makes the karma much more powerful to engage in something as an antidote to an affliction of our own. Okay, what's next? Please say Yunten. Gishin. Yunten means a good quality, a spiritual quality usually. And Xing means a field, like a field of earth. So in the study of karma, the science of karma, when they talk about a field, it's the field that you're planting your seeds in, is really what they're referring to. The field where you're sowing your seeds. And it's like planting crops, in a very fertile field, and you get good results. That's what kind of the metaphor they're using here. And what they're saying is that sow your karmic seeds in a fertile field. What they're saying is give to a powerful object. If you're going to engage in giving, giving is the example we're using. This applies to all karmas. Make an offering, give something to an extremely powerful object, like your lawnmower, the 3 jewels. They're very special for you. So, if you met the Dharmakaya, it would seem like the perfectly appropriate thing to give everything you have, as an offering. If you met part of an enlightened being or the mind of an enlightened being, right? And the appropriate way to give is not in some showy, ostentatious way. It's to take something and give it in an anonymous way. You take your money and you can offer it in fire, or take something precious and make it as an offering to the 3 jewels and throw it into the Hudson. Right? Or one great practitioner, she had a very special diamond pendant. And she was sitting by a fire, Diamond Mountain late one night after a puja, and decided that the appropriate thing to do would be to make an offering by taking the diamond pendant and putting it in the fire, as an offering. Not to the fire, but as an offering to holy beings, and something no one would ever see and no one would ever know. And therefore, it's a pure offering, selfless offering. There's no praise and no awareness from anyone else. There's no material, there's no gain or fame, or anything coming from it, right? No pollution of ordinary motivation, right? So, offering to a powerful karmic object like the 3 jewels, or any one of the 3 jewels, is one of the best ways to get enlightened in one lifetime. And it's the highest offering that one can make, but it's important to do it with understanding. And to not have it be some kind of dirty offering, but a pure offering, like the pendant in the fire, the diamond pendant in the fire. So, So, yeah. Best way to spend your money. Please say pendokpa, shin.
Shin.
Means someone who's helped you. Pendokpa means someone who's helped you. And shin is a special object. So, again, a field, right? So, classic example here is your parents. What makes someone a very special object for you, a powerful object for you? You know, they're saying here you should give to someone who's a powerful object for you or a special object for you. And typically it's one's parents. Classic example. But it's also anyone else who has benefited you in a meaningful way. You know, if someone's really helped you in your life, done something in a really meaningful way for you, in a really special and significant and profound way for you, then, you know, giving to them is powerful. Okay? So there's a list of those people who have given a special benefit in the General Confession. It says, your parents become before your Lama in terms of special object. They start with 5 great deeds, like trying to kill a Buddha right after that, or trying to hurt your parents, and then your Lamas after that. And so, you know, people, especially in the West, feel like my parents weren't so special. I didn't particularly care for them. I don't feel a great connection. Why should I think that they're special? And the scriptures are very clear. They say, you know, it doesn't seem like they've done very much for us, but they've provided the basis to become enlightened. You know, they provided us the body and mind to become enlightened. And that's the most significant thing that they've done for us. They provided a basis, a body and a mind, with which we can reach enlightenment. And, you know, we can stop countless lives of suffering for ourselves with this body and mind. We've had other bodies and minds for countless lifetimes of suffering and can continue to have countless bazillions of lives of suffering. You know, and we've received this body and this mind from our parents, which has the basis and the opportunity to become enlightened in one life and put a permanent end to all that suffering. So that's a very special thing that they've offered and provided, and so that's why they're special objects. They've given us a vehicle to reach enlightenment, and so, you know, we owe them everything for that. And so, even if they're crap otherwise and we don't get along, it's irrelevant. Just, they've given the greatest gift that can be given, which is a vehicle to get to enlightenment. So, that's the point, and that's why the karma done towards them is very powerful, and why they're a special object for us. You know, it doesn't mean we have to stay 2 weeks at their house instead of a weekend, right? Be practical. If you want to last for a weekend, just stay for a weekend. Okay, bring some nice gifts. Buy the special chocolate, not the cheap chocolate. Okay, stay as long as you know is reasonable, and then go. You know, practical advice, right? Bring extra gifts. Okay, please say Duknyal. Chengyishin. Duknyal is suffering. Chen is someone who's suffering. Shin is a powerful object again. So someone who's suffering is a powerful object. Anyone who's suffering is a powerful object. I mean, you know, is it better to help someone who is starving with a sandwich, or someone who is, you know, drunk and saying, "Hey man, can you spare the sandwich?" You know, obviously better to help someone who's, you know, starving, you know, rather than someone who's just a little hungry because they got too drunk. You know, someone who has the greater need is more powerful karmically, right? So, you know, someone who's very poor, someone who's really afflicted, someone who's really depressed, someone who's really tired, they all qualify as powerful karmic objects, right? Being kind to those who are really in need, rather than those who, you know, are just doing the standard rounds of collecting food on the subway, for example. So Master Shantideva gets into a thing here about, it's a very important concept in Vinaya, which is called Javanidom. Please say Javanidom. Java is action, and Ni means two, and Dom means when two things happen, two things converge. When there are two choices, when two opportunities converge to give, do you give to this person or that person? Do you help to this person or do you help that person? When faced with a choice, what do you choose? And it's very important in the Vinaya because there are so many vows, right? And often you have to make a choice between two activities which conflict with each other. Or you have to make a choice between two vows which conflict with each other. So if these two vows are in direct contradiction, which one do I follow? How do I know which one to follow? I mean, is it just a random coin toss, right? No. So there's prioritization. There are two kinds of prioritization. And so how do we prioritize our perfections and our giving, for example? You know, I could give to this person, or this person, or this person, or that person, right? Don't have time to give to everybody. You have to make some choices. So he talks about it. So one type of prioritization is within the particular perfection. Like we're talking about the perfection of giving. So within the perfection of giving, you know, should I give to this person or that person? Should I give food or teaching? You know, what should I give and to whom? So you've only got 5 minutes, you know. What are we going to do in the 5 minutes? How do we decide? Do we give food, or do we give a teaching on bodhicitta? You know, which type of giving should we do? That's prioritizing between the perfections, right? Not within the perfections. So those are the two possible ways: within a perfection or between the perfections, right? Okay. So if you have a choice between, if you only have 5 minutes to engage in the perfections, do you spend 5 minutes, you know, feeding someone, or do you spend 5 minutes meditating on emptiness? Well, meditating on emptiness is a higher prioritization, and we're going to talk about it. You go for the higher perfection, right? Someone needs food. Are you going to spend a half an hour feeding someone at the soup kitchen, or are you going to go to class, which is a higher perfection? You know? Are you going to go to class and teach, you know, which would be a higher perfection? Right? Going to class and teaching would be a higher perfection. Because I understand that if I saw emptiness, then I can really end suffering forever. And for myself and teach other people to do it. Right? Teach everyone to get beyond samsara. So, and we have to be honest with ourselves, right? That we don't get extreme with this. It's not like, oh, well, I've got Dharma class, so I don't dare give anymore. Or I'm going to have to pay attention to the people who are in need on the way to the class. It's very easy to say, I don't have to care about hungry people because I'm meditating and I'm studying and I'm going to class, so I'm not going to really pay attention to the beggars and the homeless people and all the rest, you know, or the soup kitchens or whatever it might be, right? So we have to be honest with ourselves. I mean, sometimes we don't have to choose between the two, right? And we have to be sincere about whether it's really essential and really necessary to choose between the two, right? So I mean, we've really got to do all the perfections. We need to be engaging in all 6 perfections. But if it really comes down to it and we really don't have a choice, then we choose the higher perfection. Right? Same with our vows. I mean, if there's a conflict between the 3 sets of vows, Praktimoksha vows, Bodhisattva vows, and secret vows, if there's a conflict between those vows, we have to choose the higher vows. Higher vows take precedence over the lower vows, right? So usually we can satisfy all our vows quite nicely in that the higher vows are built upon the lower vows, and the lower vows support the higher vows. Right? So it's not the case typically that there's a direct contradiction between the vows. It's that one is a refinement and higher level of sophistication of the other. So we have to be careful, right? So, but Master Shantideva says, as a bodhisattva, we're required to go for the highest thing without hesitation. Jason Kappa, Master Shantideva, Gyaltsab Jay, they go into great detail pointing out that not only do you not break your lower vow if you ignore it to pursue the higher vow, it's a great goodness. You collect tremendous virtue and tremendous goodness by keeping your higher vow and letting go of your lower vow, if there's a direct contradiction, right? And so when we have to choose between one activity and another, it's our responsibility and it's our obligation to choose the higher virtue and the highest goodness that we can engage in, right? And so they say don't hesitate, even for a minute, you know. Choose the highest thing to get to enlightenment as quickly as possible. Choose the higher vow over the lower vow to get to enlightenment quickly. The highest vows are the things that bring us to enlightenment the fastest. And so of course we have to choose the higher vows over the lower vows. half the time we think there's a conflict, there's not a conflict. And we just have to think about it more carefully and study it more carefully and pay more attention. So Master Shantideva says, be very clear in your mind as to whether or not there is a real conflict and really study it. But don't hesitate, especially with the high spots. Pursue them and go for it. And they're very difficult to practice and a little bit subtle, a little bit beyond us, a little beyond our capacity. And so we have to commit ourselves to trying to achieve those things, and we have to aspire to those things. And just try it, try it and go for it to the best of our ability. Something like that. We have to really study prioritization. And after we've studied prioritization, then we have to do it and we have to go for it. Engage in the highest form of giving within the perfections. Teach if you can teach. If you can't teach, then, or don't want to teach, then help people in whatever way you can by giving. And we're going to talk about it, but each of the perfections is higher than the next perfection. So when given a choice between the 6 perfections, go for the 6th perfection rather than the 1st perfection. So it's like that. Within one perfection, we have to pick the more important one. So the ground rules are actually pretty simple. What will get you to enlightenment fastest? What's most powerful to get you to enlightenment? That's the thing you should pursue. What object should you give money towards? The one which will get you to enlightenment fastest. Higher object rather than lower object. Doesn't mean ignore all lower objects and let them starve, but concentrate your efforts on higher objects. Right? Main emphasis should be given towards powerful karmic objects. Dedicate your resources towards those objects because they'll help you get to enlightenment faster. So there can be kind of a laziness to do the thing which is in front of us, and the thing which is more obvious. It's like, well, okay, here's a guy in front of me who's begging, I'll give him 50 cents or a buck or something, and then I'll forget about it, I gave today. Rather than being conscious and rather than being intentional and saying, let me really make a plan. Let me really think about it. Let me really have some kind of, dare I say, tithing plan. So I know a lot of negative connotations there. Sorry. But, let me really be conscious about my giving. Let me really make a plan about my giving. Let me figure out the highest places where I can give and then set out to do it and do it so that the karma is powerful. Let me do it consistently, repeatedly, over and over again, with a lot of feeling when I do it, and not some just like thoughtless, let me write a check because it's, somebody sent me a solicitation in the mail and mail it off to them. Should I give to the Smile Train this month, or should I give to the food bank, or should I give to, the Nature Conservancy? Because I got a letter from each of them in the mail. I mean, it's not powerful giving. It's not thoughtful giving, right? So we want to be karmically astute when we're engaging in the perfections, right? Okay. So sometimes the more powerful giving is uncomfortable, right? Might involve faith and devotion to think, well, I don't really want to see this person as a holy being. I don't really want to admit this person is special. Or I don't want to really acknowledge the 3 jewels as some special thing, or that giving to an altar or giving to a Dharma center is somehow a really holy thing or a really special thing. There's there can be a resistance within us, to maintain an ordinary view, to stick with an ordinary view that says, no, I mean, 6 of one, half a dozen of the other, as opposed to this is really profound, and this is really holy, and this is really special, and this deserves special status. I think there's some kind of resistance there. It can be uncomfortable for us to put ourselves in that kind of relationship. I mean, speaking for myself, there's a tendency to not want to be disadvantaged, to position lower. Like, let me just position down here and position that up there. And this is a great high thing, and I'm this, and I'm going to give to this great high thing and acknowledge it's much higher than me, and I'm much lower than it, and I'm really small, and it's really great, and I'll be humble, and we'll be more than me. It's like all this stuff can come up, right? And this can be this resistance to it, just for psychological or ordinary human reasons, right? So we have to pay attention. We have to be careful. And sometimes try to break through that and have that sense of faith and devotion and I don't know what to call it, surrender or humility, or a sense of allowing things to be much greater than us. I don't know what you would call it, but something like that, right? And that's hard sometimes. It might be a little scary, or it might feel shy, or insecure, or whatever it might be, but it's like that. It's the highest form of offering. So, what is the highest form of offering? Anybody know what the highest form of offering is, or giving? Practice. Yeah, your practice. Better than money, better than stuff, better than teaching. It's doing what your teacher has taught you, offering the fact that you are keeping their teachings and following through on their teachings and implementing their teachings and living their teachings. I mean, if you have to choose between, money and flowers and water and chocolates and some cash and all the rest, make sure they can pay the bill for the rent for the Dharma Center. But the thing that they really want is for you to practice and get the realizations and put an end to suffering and be happier, right? So, I mean, if you could give them all your money and your house and your wife and your kids and your favorite car and all the rest, I mean, if you could offer all that to a holy being, they don't care. They want you to practice and they want you to be happy, right? I mean, especially your Lama, they want you to succeed in your practice. If they have any realizations, they don't care about those things. They don't need those things. They don't care about those things. What they want is to know that you tried to follow the practice. The fact that you tried, the fact that you made effort, the fact that you applied yourself and had the intention and the effort to carry out the teachings and live the teachings is what they want. They're putting their time and their energy and their life into spreading the Dharma and passing the lineage, and they want to know that you take it seriously and sincerely, and they're making sincere efforts to integrate it into your life and to practice it and to live it. So that's the gift that they want most, and that's the sweetest gift to a Lama, is to try to follow the practices in some kind of sweet and appropriate way. Okay? Doesn't have to be perfect practice. You could screw up most of the day, but try. Make efforts. You could be in a bad mood all day, get cranky at everyone all day long, but still make efforts and try at some point. Last half hour of the day, I fought my mental afflictions, even though I was mindless and oblivious the other 23 and a half hours of the day. I at least took a stand at one point during the day and made an effort at one point during the day, right? So that's a great offering. That's a perfect offering. That's the offering that they want the most. Right? Okay, second perfection. Sultrim. Please say Sultrim. Parchin. So Parchin is what? Perfection. And Sultrim is morality. Perfection and morality, ethical way of life is, I prefer, living ethically. So in the text, Master Shantideva is most concerned about the third kind of ethical behavior. Do you remember what the three are? Three collections of goodness?
Morality of restraining yourself, morality of collecting goodness, and morality of working for the benefit of all beings.
Yeah, collecting positive energy, collecting goodness, right? Engaging in good deeds. Morality, pursuing that. And then there's the morality of restraining oneself, mainly from breaking our vows, restraining ourselves from negativity. Right? Mainly trying to not break our 3 sets of vows. And then, living an ethical life to liberate other sentient beings and to help all other living beings, right? And obviously the three are not mutually exclusive. So Master Shantideva is talking about the third in the guide, is engaging in ethics to benefit other beings.
What was the first one?
Depends on which way you listen. But the morality of collecting goodness, or the ethical living to collect goodness.
Thank you.
And then the morality of restraining oneself from negativity and non-virtue. restraining oneself from breaking one's vows, living that way. And then doing these two things for the benefit of other beings, of all other living beings. To become a Buddha, to end their suffering. Right? So, Master Shantideva focuses on this third type of ethical behavior. And the first thing he lists here, please say Shendu. Plurlan. And Shendu means for others' benefit. And Plurlan means to go for it. So he's saying, really go for it, you know. Don't be wimpy, don't hesitate, don't hold back. You know, really go for it. Really go for it when you try to help people. You know, if you're a bodhisattva, you really have to try to help people. And for monks especially, monks and nuns especially, they have a lot of particular vows that say don't do this and don't do that. You know, they're not allowed to collect things, they're not allowed to own things, they're not allowed to possess things, right? So then there's a contradiction between monastic vows and bodhisattva vows, for example. And so the bodhisattva pays very special attention to their vows to make sure that they're following the vows properly and not discounting, say, monastic vows inappropriately while trying to pursue bodhisattva activities. Master Shantideva is saying, do what you have to do to serve beings, right? Go for it. Don't be shy, don't be hesitant. If you have to break a vow to serve beings, then you break a vow to serve beings. It's part of an ethical way of life. For example, monks and nuns are not allowed to collect cloth, you know, or collect money, have a bank account, right? But Master Shantideva says, look, you know, if money helps people, have a bank account and collect money. You know, go for it. Collect as much money as possible and help as many people as possible. You know? If being in the clothing business helps people have clothes to wear, then go for it. You know? Help people have affordable clothes to wear. So he says, don't be shy, don't hesitate. Really go for it. So do everything possible that you can to serve other people, whatever it may be. Don't be wimpy. Then second, please say Shin.
Shin.
Due. Lapa.
Lapa.
Shen is others, Due is gather, and Lapa is train. And he's saying, attract and entice others to practice Dharma. Attract people to the Dharma, entice people to the Dharma. I mean, we're not talking about becoming, not Jehovah's, they go to Jehovah's Witnesses that go door to door?
Yeah.
We're not talking about becoming Jehovah's Witnesses, right? We're not talking about go knocking on doors and proselytizing. We're not allowed to do that. But skillful means, right? Speak sweetly to people, have nice snacks, you know, have beautiful people at the door to say welcome, whatever it takes, you know, to get people to come into the Dharma, right? Have a slick flyer if that's what it takes, you know, whatever it takes. Not sure about the, naked people and sexy come to the Dharma class stuff. Geshe Michael was expressing some reservation about that when he was here. But, within reason. do what it takes to entice people and attract them to come and hear the teachings, because it will help them, it will benefit them, right? We're not allowed to teach people unless we're asked, unless people are interested. We're not talking about arm twisting, but he's saying that part of an ethical way of life is trying to attract people to the Dharma to help them. Trying to let people know about these things to help them end their suffering. The only way to help people is to teach them. And if people don't hear the information, they can't apply it in their lives and benefit from it and end their suffering. So part of the perfection of living an ethical way of life is enticing people to learn about these things so that they can put an end to their suffering. You know, so said it's like be like honey on a flower, you know, to attract the bees. Or the nectar in a flower that attracts the bees. You know, make it attractive for people. You know, reel them in whatever way works. You know, wear cool clothes. Wear like the white flowing outfit if you need to wear the white flowing outfit. Don't do the white flowing outfit. Maybe I should. I don't know. I mean, I'm not very skillful in that way. What do you think, Bruce? Do you need a different outfit?
Be perfect as you are.
Yeah.
The Wall Street button down pants.
Okay, all right. Something like that, right? So, so then he talks about how to attract people to the Dharma, right? How should we entice people to the Dharma? So he goes into three different ways of attracting people to the Dharma. He says use material things, right? So please say Segu Jin Mijin. Segu is food or clothes. Jin is give. Mijin is not to give. So he's saying, don't be stingy about giving your resources, food, clothes, and things like that to people to attract them to the Dharma. Okay? Make it affordable. Don't have money be a turnoff that prevents people from getting to the Dharma. Don't have your price structure be a turnoff for people coming to the Dharma. Right? You know, give people shelter if they need shelter to attract them. Give people food. Give them people clothes. Help them in whatever way they need. Take care of their needs to help attract them to the Dharma, right? I mean, at Saramay, there's no charge for anything. You know, the great masters who teach there, they don't charge. There's no such thing as charging for classes at Saramay. The teachers there take care of the students. You go to a great teacher and they have students living in their room. You know, they're taking care of their students at great personal expense. They're making sure they have food, they're paying for their food, they're making sure they have clothes, they're making sure that all their students' needs are met. So it's a great personal sacrifice for a teacher to look after their students, you know, to care for their students. So, yeah. So, but that's as it should be. You know, they have 4 people sleeping in their bedroom with them. You know, that's just what they do. So it's appropriate. So Master Shantideva is saying, you know, you have to share your resources with people and make it easy for them to meet the Dharma and make it easy for them to study the Dharma. And make it easy for them to stay with the Dharma. So you do what you have to do in that way, and don't be stingy about sharing your things. Right? And he says, don't do things like giving your robes away. You know, he says it's not talking about like if you're a monk, you give your robes away and you do something inappropriate. That's not what he's saying. He's saying you shouldn't do anything that would be inappropriate, or you shouldn't do anything that you regret later. Like you have to draw a line somewhere. You have to draw a line at your capacity. You know. Don't run out and say, oh, Lama, take my house. You know, please take my house and my bank account. You know, and then find yourself on destitute and regretting it, right? I mean, it would be foolish, right? So don't do that. Don't give more than you can handle. How do you know how much you can handle? By giving it and regretting it? No. I mean, giving it and regretting it is actually a worse karma than not giving it at all. Mm-hmm. Because having the virtue of giving turned to regret is a negative karma. Better to not give than to have it turn to non-virtue. Right? So, mind changing to regret is infinitely worse than not giving in the first place. So we have to judge our ability as to how much we can give. And they say if you would regret it in the bardo, don't do it. So figure that out. I think perhaps you could translate that to if on some very deep or some very subtle level you're not okay with it, you probably shouldn't do it. Something like that. I could perhaps paraphrase, but it's just my paraphrasing. You have to check carefully and decide is the point, right? You know, Master Shantideva says, start with carrots and potatoes and work your way up to your eyeballs, you know? Don't try to start with, you know, giving your eyeball to somebody, you know, or kidney or whatever, I don't know, unless you're really there. So, okay. Please say, Lula. Minu. Lu is body, La is to, Mi is don't, Nu is hurt. Don't hurt your body. Don't hurt yourself. Right? Take care of your health and your basic comforts, your body's needs, your family's needs. Don't prematurely hurt yourself for minor needs, minor goals before you're able. Right? Like someone will say, I'll give up everything, I'll give up all my money, and then they can't get a good night's sleep, they can't meditate, they don't have a stable life, they can't practice, right? You're hurting yourself. It's not appropriate. We need a place to live. We need resources. We need a stable life. We need to be able to have food every day. We need to have clothes and warmth and comfort and everything else. And we shouldn't harm ourselves or be responsible in any way. Shouldn't do something that hurts us, especially physically as a bodhisattva, right? Care for your body. Make sure you have enough resources to take care of yourself and your commitments. If we don't have resources, we can't take care of our commitments, right? I mean, we made commitments, right? We've taken vows, we've made commitments, and we have to fulfill them. And we have to have the resources to fulfill those commitments, right? So it's a responsibility we have as bodhisattvas. So Sri Michael told of how when he met the Dalai Lama, the Dalai Lama said to him, go back to school. Don't stay in India, go back to school. Finish your degree, right? He didn't want to hear it, obviously. But he made the point that if we get in the habit of being, if we start to be irresponsible, it's easy to get in the habit of being irresponsible. And it's easy to say, well, I'll just study Dharma and go to India, and they can become a habit of irresponsibility, and then we'll become irresponsible with our Dharma later on. Habit carries over. So we have certain commitments we have to honor, and we shouldn't do things that are going to hurt our health, people around us, with the idea of pursuing the Dharma. It's contradictory. Right? Don't hurt ourselves. Don't hurt our ability to keep our commitments for the Dharma. It's just a contradictory idea. We have to have the ability to fulfill our commitments and the ability to engage in our Dharma practice in an appropriate and proper way. So it does take a certain level of comfort to practice nicely. We do need a place to stay. We do need a place to stay. We do need decent food. And we have to take care of those things first so we can meditate and we can practice, right? We can take care of our health. And, we have to look after our health and our livelihood to be able to do those things. So that's what Master Shantideva is saying here in this point. He's saying that in terms of material things and using material things, share your resources appropriately to attract people to the Dharma. Don't hurt your body. Don't hurt your practice by not taking care of your needs, your basic needs, and your body and your health and your mind and your circumstances that enable you to practice. You have to look after those things too. And then the third thing he says is, please say Lujin.
Lujin.
Duju.
Duju.
Lujin, Duju. Lu is body, Jin is giving, and Tugu means purpose, time and purpose. And Master Shantideva is in a way counteracting what he said before about being careful. He's saying, when the time comes and you're ready and the time is right, just give your life. Just go for it. Just do it. Because if the time is right and if you're ready, don't hesitate. Do it. You have to give up your life. If there's a clear and pressing need and you're ready and the time is right, then, and it's necessary, then do it. And you'll know if it's necessary. Right? And don't hesitate at that point. And again, ready means that you would have no regrets in the bargain. Right? You have no regrets about doing it when you're in the bargain. Okay. So, he says, don't hesitate at that point. He says, when the time comes and you're ready, and you have to give up your body and your life, then you do it. You just do it. A lot of things we could say about it, but it's a very holy thing. And I was speaking to someone over the last couple of weeks, and he was saying that in his meditations, he was having some advanced meditations and some experiences in his advanced meditations, and he was saying that he gets to a point where he feels like he's going to die. and it's very scary. So he's meditating in very subtle ways and having certain experiences, and then he reaches a point in his practice where he feels like he's like on the edge of dying and he's going to die. And so then he stops practicing. He's afraid and he stops practicing. This kind of freaks him out, so he stops practicing. So, you know, as a practitioner, we encounter scary things and we encounter difficult things. And we reach points in our practice where we have to make choices to take risks or go forward or not. And I think that's what Master Shantideva is speaking to here is, you know, when the time comes and you're ready, then you have to go for it. Something like that. Okay, and then Master Shantideva talks secondly about how to attract people to the Dharma by how you give the Dharma. There are certain ways you can give the Dharma that attract people to it, right? He's saying that you can attract people to the Dharma with material things by sharing your resources, your food, your clothes appropriately, by taking good care of your body, right? And by, when the time comes, going for it. And then he says, you can attract people to the Dharma according to how you give the Dharma. And so the first point he makes there, please say Nyenpoi. Kunshu. Nyenpoi is the student. And Kunshu is the behavior of the student. The person who's learning the Dharma and the behavior of the person who's learning the Dharma. And Master Shantideva says that there's a proper way to listen to the Dharma and proper behavior on the part of the student. And he says if the student doesn't follow certain kinds of behavior, it would be improper to teach them Dharma. And we should not teach them Dharma if they're not following certain minimum codes of conduct. Right? Most important being respecting the Dharma and respecting the teacher. If you know that someone doesn't respect what you're saying or respect you, then you shouldn't teach them. Right? And you're not allowed to teach them. So there are certain kinds of behaviors, sitting attentively, not doing things which are considered to be impolite in that culture, that Master Shantideva goes into. Like in Tibetan culture, it's considered to be extremely rude to point the soles of your feet at someone. Other cultures, wearing a hat is considered to be extremely rude. So it's whatever is culturally appropriate, right? So the teacher, if they have attainments, they don't need anything, you know, and they're teaching for your benefit. So it's not a question of saying sir and, you know, being, I don't know, behaving nicely to make them feel good or being obsequious or something like that. It's not for them, they don't need it. It's just that it's appropriate to sit properly and listen properly and study in an appropriate way and practice in an appropriate way. Master Shantideva says that it's improper to teach someone, and inappropriate to teach someone who's not willing to follow that code of conduct. And please say Nuki. Sampa. Nu is a vessel. Nuki Sampa. Sampa is a level. And so saying Nu is a vessel or a pot. So the level of the vessel is the level of the pot. It's filling it to the appropriate level, pouring into the appropriate level. So he's saying that you have to teach at the level of the student. You know? Don't give them too much. Don't give them not enough. Teach at their level. Teach at their intellectual level, the level of their mind. Right? Second responsibility as a bodhisattva, when you're trying to attract students to the Dharma, is to teach at the appropriate level. So first you have the responsibility to teach the appropriate kind of student, when they have the appropriate behavior. And then you have the responsibility to teach at the appropriate level. You know, you don't want to teach technical points to people who aren't interested, who can't handle it, and then turn them off and alienate them. And you don't want to teach below someone's level so that they're not progressing as quickly as possible. Right? Match the Dharma to the people. If you know they have a good mind, it'd be inappropriate to be teaching them lower paths. You want to teach them the highest path possible, fastest way possible, right? And Nulchu Dharma Bhadra commonly says, listen, I'm going to say this for my sharper students, because, if you just are left with what I said earlier, you'll be bored. So for those of you who are my students who have sharper minds, then, you can do this and this and this and this, so you're not bored with the other teachings, so you're not bored with the other visualizations and meditations and practices that I've given. You need higher practices, you need more sophisticated practices, and so you should be thinking about these things, right? So. And, Westerners often lose teachings because of their behavior. They often lose high Dharma teachings because they're not respectful to a Lama. Like Rinpoche, people used to ask Rinpoche for a teaching, and they wouldn't do it properly. They wouldn't ask in a respectful and appropriate or proper way, in a traditional way, because he's very traditional. And, he would just say, no, I don't know much about that. Something he may have taught for 30 years, and he would say, no, I don't have much to say about that. I don't know much about that. And so Westerners can lose a lot of teachings that way because of not asking properly or appropriately. And so we have to be careful in that regard. Right? You say Gyatchen, Mula, Men, Mijar. So Gyatchen means big or wide, and Mula is attracted to. Men is lower teachings, and Mijar means don't put. So what they're saying is if someone has an aptitude for higher teachings, don't give them lower teachings. Don't give Hinayana teachings to someone who has Mahayana inclinations or attitude. Right? Don't teach lower Dharma to someone who's capable of Bodhisattva activity. Right? And if someone has predisposition to higher teachings, secret teachings, then don't waste their time and don't waste their life by giving them lower teachings. Right? Give them what they can digest. Feed teachings to them according to their level and their capacity. Don't leave them half full, right? And don't overfeed a person of smaller scope either. Yeah.
Isn't that the same as the previous?
Mm. In this one, the first one we had was if the student doesn't behave well, then you shouldn't teach them.
Isn't Nuki teach at the level of each student?
Teach at their level, not above or below it. And then this is teach them at the highest level possible. So one you could say is their mental capacity or their intellectual capacity. In this, we're really talking about, I think you could say whether they're ripe, perhaps. Like, are they ready for higher teachings? Does someone have, for example, you could be very intelligent, right? But not give a hoot about Mahayana, right? So this is talking about the scope that the person is on, as opposed to the mental faculty and capacity of the person. So I think you can make a distinction that way. Right? Teaching at their level from the perspective of, can they understand it? Do they have the intellect? Do they have the intelligence? Right? And versus, do they have a capacity and an interest and an inclination for Mahayana or Tantrayana? Right? So if they have an inclination for Mahayana and Tantrayana, then teach them Mahayana and Tantrayana, if they're ready, if it's appropriate. As opposed to when you, on the prior point, teaching at the level the student is on, perhaps, are you going to teach, Mahamudra number 1 or number 2 or number 3 or number 4 to someone based upon their ability to understand Mahamudra, say? Or are you going to teach emptiness as meaning things are dependent upon their parts, because that's the level a person can understand it? Or are you going to teach emptiness on the level of things are dependent upon their causes, because that's the level a person can understand? Or are you going to teach emptiness as things are dependent upon how you perceive and project them, because that's the level of understanding? So I think on the prior point, you can make a distinction of the refinement of the teaching within that strata of teaching, perhaps. And in this, we're talking perhaps about different scopes and strata of teaching, moving between strata of teaching, perhaps. So we're talking about these 3 points are attracting others to Dharma according to how you give the Dharma. So if we step back and think about it, you teach students who are respectful and appreciative, essentially, right? And then you teach them according to their intellect, right? And according to their ability to understand whatever the subject matter is that you're teaching. So they can get whatever it is that you're teaching. And they can appreciate and whatever it is you're teaching, they'll come back for more. And then you could say, well, if they really want to help people, then you're teaching the Mahayana. And if they really have some kind of exceptional pure view and some kind of exceptional holy inclination and goodness and virtue, then you could teach at the level of the secret teachings. Right? So, because that's what they're ready for, and that's what resonates with them, and that's what is right for them, and that's what will attract them to the Dharma because it's a good fit. So it's about fit, I guess you could say, maybe would be a simple way to say it. Have teaching where there's a good fit on different levels. I'm just talking through this. This is not the scripture, okay? Just to be clear. And then Master Shantideva, remember where we are? Have we lost where we are? Well, but going back there,
Go further.
we're talking about 3. Master Shantideva is talking about 3 parts to ethical living, right? We're talking about the 3rd morality, the morality of collecting, the morality of the 3rd morality, which is doing the other 2 to benefit all living beings, right? Doing the first 2 moralities to benefit all living beings, right? Living an ethical life to benefit all living beings, right? So that's what Master Shantideva is focusing on. And then he says, look, do everything, his first point is, totally go for it. Do everything you possibly can to benefit others, right? And his second point is, entice others to the Dharma and attract others to the Dharma, right? And he says, there are multiple ways to do that, which is what we've been talking about. But now the third main point he makes about living an ethical life for benefiting others is helping others keep their faith, right? Which is, please say, Sem Jesu Zimpa. Oh, it's numbered up there nicely. I didn't have to do all that. Yeah, it is. So you caught that those were all sub-points. I should have looked at the board. All right, never mind. So this is keeping others' faith. Helping others keep their faith. Behave in a way that sets a good example for others and inspires them to keep their faith. Right? So, look at Mark. He's living such a wonderful, beautiful life that and we know he's Buddhist, and he inspires us that Buddhism is good because he sets the example. We see how Mark lives. We think Mark lives wonderfully. We're inspired by the way he lives his life. He's representative of Buddhism, and therefore, Buddhism must be a good thing. That's what Master Shantideva is talking about here, right? By being a good bodhisattva representative, people are attracted to the path. Right? So our behavior would never cause others to lose their faith, right? Our behavior causes others to keep their faith. Right? And so he talks about 3 kinds of behavior that help to attract people to the Dharma. Right? So, oh dang, it's cookie time. Lost track. Sorry, please, have cookies and we'll talk about it when we come back. Lost myself there.
We don't mind.
Please enjoy whatever attractions to the Dharma we put out there. I hope there's some of that out there.
There's another blue eye.
I thought there should have been another right there. Thank you.